tale why many people think the Army Street project should be torn down. And you'll hear some say there is a sinister reason why they're still standing. Brian Banmiller has our report.
21 people have died on this patch of land where Lloyd Randleston plays kickball every day.
People selling crack, shooting each other, shooting our kids, playing.
Lloyd lives in Bernal Dwellings, the infamous Army Street projects. These high-rise structures, sprayed with graffiti that commemorates the dead, were built in 1952. They sprawl for 3 blocks along San Francisco's newly named Cesar Chavez Street. It sounds and looks like a prison, a bleak fortress that is home to 478 men, women, and children who fall below the poverty line.
Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to live like this. We all know what that familiar odor is right now.
Hallways filled with pools of human urine, stairwells strewn with garbage, torched plastic bags that are the refuse of crack cocaine smokers.
We're about to overstay our welcome.
Even with a narcotics officer with us, alleged drug dealers lurking 12 stories above send air crew a warning, stay away.
We're very fortunate that your cameraman wasn't hit by 2 eggs that were just dropped on him from this high-rise building we're at right now. Watch your head coming through. They're dropping eggs from the roof right now.
This retired Muni bus driver has dodged more than eggs. He says that from his doorstep, he has watched young men kill each other over crack cocaine.
I feel hard. Feel like I'm mental. Please that destroy people.
When night falls, the projects become even more deadly. 9-year-old Lloyd, who hopes one day to be a pro football player, watches the bad boys, as he calls them, take over his playground.
That's one of the things that we doing crack and smoke and stuff. Him and his friends go all the way and doing crack.
Unlike most children, this little boy's monsters are real.
I don't want to die.
Death is part of the landscape here at Bernal Dwellings. Police records show at least 21 people have been beaten, knifed, or shot to death in this project since 1990. It is now one of the biggest killing grounds in the city.
Army Street is steady. It's a steady business. One of the things that we see there that we really don't see anywhere else is the old Wild West make 'em dance, shoot at their feet.
This man, shot to death in a drug dispute at a Project Crack house, bled to death after 7 hours in a hallway.
He's just dragged out and dumped like some garbage. It never stops.
Yeah, let's go do it. Let's go. Turn them on. Let's go.
Just ask Police Sergeant Kit Crenshaw why it never stops. He blames organized gangs here who peddle crack, called Hubba on the street.
Any night is Hubba night. You can come out here anytime, day or night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Rainstorm, hailstorm, and buy crack. Door right there, you can see a lot of dope dealers there.
Crenshaw knows all the boys who slip into hallways when he arrives. He's an 18-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department, who was himself raised in the nearby Hunters Point housing project.
What's up, fellas? Huh? I don't know. Don't fly no colors now. No colors, no colors. Let's pour out the beers and let's go. They're fortunate if they make it past their 25th birthday, in one piece. I mean, if they don't end up getting killed and they're going to jail, they're strung out on dope.
So why are police and the federal government powerless to clean this place up? Many blame this man, Jeffrey Branner, a convicted crack cocaine dealer.
I'm into God right now. I have no time for nothing else. I'm not involved in nothing illegal. No drugs, no nothing illegal.
2 months ago, Branner pled guilty to possession with intent to sell crack cocaine in 1993. But he didn't go to jail.
How you doing?
Instead, police say he continues to control the Project Tenant Association and hinder federal efforts to tear this place down. So how can he do this when he isn't even a tenant? That's a mystery to Crenshaw, who says he's the project's biggest problem.
Any negative you can imagine, you can easily place upon Jeffrey Branner. the criminal acts that he's done preying upon the people here, you know, from murder to dealing heroin to dealing cocaine, dealing marijuana. You know, if there's anything illegal, anything that shouldn't be done, he's done it.
Tomorrow night, more on the mysterious Jeffrey Branner, a man some tenants accuse of shocking crimes, even against children. So is this man a crusader who's found Jesus? Or is he the worst nightmare for tenants trying to survive in these projects? I'm Brian Banmiller for segment 2.
Into one of the most deadly pieces of real estate in the Bay Area, the Army Street housing projects in San Francisco. The federal agency that owns the buildings wants to tear them down, but some people say a man with a criminal past is preventing that from happening and is in effect holding the people who live in the projects hostage. Here is part 2 of Brian Banmiller's report.
In 1952, the federal government built the Army Street projects as a refuge for the poor. Life was simpler then, before gangs and crack cocaine moved in.
Come out to see you bad guys. You're the bad guys, right?
Every night, young men lurk outside these eerie structures.
It's like it's a regular drug supermarket. I guess feel like the only way they can make it sometimes is that it's around involving in the life of crime, dealing drugs, being involved in robberies.
Today, the project is a killing ground. The faces of those who have died here still haunt the hallways. 20-year-old Anthony Ledbetter killed March 17th in a drug dispute. 24-year-old Lily Lewis died that same day along with Ledbetter. 23-year-old Felicia Stanbury was stuffed into the trunk of a car, driven to Twin Peaks, and shot to death. Police say she knew too much about this man's murder.
5 years later, I still run into people who remind me of Felicia Stanbury. They say, I'm not going to end up like that girl from Army Street.
Police are still searching for Felicia's killers.
Witnesses just poof, disappeared.
Are you the man? Are you the man? I gotcha. I gotcha.
Former San Francisco Mayor Art Agnos, now the Regional Director of Housing and Urban Development, is so fed up with the killing here, he sees only one answer.
I would tear this down, absolutely. We ought to bulldoze them.
Agnos says this project should have been demolished long ago, and by now, tenants would be living in townhouses with backyards. But he says this convicted crack cocaine dealer is blocking federal plans.
He's been able to muscle his way in here somehow.
Agnos says Jeffrey Branner controls the Bernal Dwellings Tenants Association.
It shocks me that someone who doesn't live here, who has a series of convictions for cocaine dealing, one of the difficult problems out here, can somehow become the leader of the tenants group.
For more than a year, the Tenants Association here has failed to give the approval necessary to release federal funds to tear the project down.
Right now, the residents themselves are not sure. They're scared of displacement and where they will be in the next 2-3 years if this process goes forward.
He's a thug. He's a bully. He's an opportunist. Hey, fellas. You live here?
Sergeant Tim Dempsey, a narcotics inspector who is the liaison between the San Francisco Police Department and the FBI, says Branner has a good motive for blocking the demolition of this place.
He's making a lot of money tax-free under the table. He's got a lot at stake.
Dempsey believes Branner may be benefiting from the drug trade that thrives here. For 9 months in 1993, Dempsey and his team watched from a window as Jeffrey Branner dealt drugs in these projects. Part of a crime family, police say controlled a multi-million-dollar-a-year trade in crack cocaine here.
I'll get you another one if you want another one.
I'll wait.
Come on.
Here, his sister Judy sells crack cocaine to Dempsey, who is disguised as a doctor. Then there is Branner's Uncle Sammy and his brother Eugene.
He looks like a Branner from this angle. What time for you? How many units you got coming down here?
After this police sting, Eugene Branner was killed by a stray bullet during a neighborhood gunfight. The criminal enterprise collapsed, and 7 Branners went to jail.
Jeffrey Branner.
And Jeffrey, in March, he pleaded guilty to possession with intent to sell crack cocaine. But Branner didn't go to jail. Instead, Judge Claude Carrasso sentenced him to probation and community service. Branner does have powerful supporters. Housing Commissioner Karen Huggins and former Housing Authority Executive Director Felipe Floresca both told me they think Branner has reformed. Branner is back on his old turf, and according to his attorney, is simply a consultant to the Tenants Association. But some tenants told us off camera he does far more than consult.
They tell us they don't stand up because they're afraid, that you intimidate them into silence.
I haven't intimidated anyone.
But several tenants told us they would not appear on camera because they are afraid of Branner. This woman and her granddaughter asked we not reveal their identities.
Jeffrey Branner is a big joke. Leave her alone.
KTVU obtained this 1993 police report filed by a tenant who claims Branner threatened to kill her two sons. The report states, the victim told me that Jeffrey Branner told him that he and his brothers ran the Army Street projects, and anybody that crossed them ends up dead. But residents aren't the only ones who say they have been threatened.
Some police have told us that their lives have been threatened because they've been digging in too tight to what's going on down here.
To threaten a police officer, that's a violation of the law. You know that, right?
It is against the law, but this 1994 police report says he has done it. He stated that we weren't and he could have us done any time. Jeffrey Branner also stated that he had guns and would shoot us if he had to.
This is a problem.
It's not very enlightening to our kids, I can tell you that.
Despite his past violence, Branner still strolls the playground here. Police say the future of the 478 women, men, and children who must survive here every day is firmly in his hands.
Now, what angers police and HUD officials is that Branner now works in the San Francisco School District, teaching children how to live in a drug-free environment. That's the community service the court imposed, rather than sending Branner to prison for possessing cocaine with intent to sell.
Residents of the so-called Army Street projects complained about the dangers and the drugs. One of those who spoke out was a 9-year-old boy. Now the boy's uncle says the family has received death threats. Leslie Griffith is in San Francisco tonight with a live report. Leslie.
Elaine, the intimidation that goes on in the Army Street projects at times is so strong that to even want a better life or to express fear about your current situation can get you killed. Like you said, a little 9-year-old boy and his teenage sister talked about their lives on segment 2 this week. The boy told us that he was afraid of the crack dealers and that he didn't want to die. After that came a death threat and a change of address.
It's unfortunate, just in this whole news segment, that, you know, a child feels that, hey, he's living in a hostage type of situation, and he speaks out about it. He doesn't name any names or anything, but just the fact that he would speak out about the conditions here, his life is threatened. 9 years old, he's threatened by some cowards who threatened to firebomb his house.
When San Francisco police heard about the threat, they called San Francisco Director of Housing and Urban Development, Art Agnos. He then called Mayor Jordan, who gave permission to put the family in a hotel until a new home could be found for them.
They have 2 children. One is finished college, another one is going to college. They have a daughter who's in high school, who is a straight-A student, an outstanding scholar athlete. And it's not unusual to find families that are struggling this way to make it, and it's too bad they have to live under the kinds of conditions where they're threatened with physical harm because they're trying to live and improve their neighborhood.
Police officers who patrol the Army Street project say there are many good people out here, but the dope dealers keep them so intimidated, virtually everyone is afraid to help catch the dealers and the killers. This little boy wasn't even trying to turn anyone in. He just expressed a desire for something more.
There's that other 5% that basically are living off the misery of others. They are keeping people down here. Anytime a child has to come outside and he has to see a urine-infested hallway, graffiti all over his walls, broken windows, you can't play in grass with sprinkler systems like other decent kids.
Art Agnos said the Housing and Urban Development Agency is now looking for permanent housing for this family. Just like that, their lives have been changed. According to police, Dennis and Elaine, this sort of intimidation happens all the time.
Leslie Griffith, live in San Francisco. Thank you, Leslie.
While the public's perception of the Army Street projects includes death and despair, as Leslie said in that report, the legacy of the low-income housing complex should also include stories of hope and survival. Brian Banmiller joins us now with a third and final installment of his segment 2 report. Brian?
Thank you, Dennis. The last 2 nights we showed you just how horrible it can be to live with little hope, stuck at the bottom of the economic ladder, surrounded by crime and violence. But despite that despair that can grip the disadvantaged like a vice, some do make it. They're the ones who defy the odds and give inspiration to us all.
Come on, how bad you want it? I want it. Come on, I want it. I want it.
22-year-old James Lester, or Binky the Boxer, as he's called on the street, is fighting his way out of a killing ground.
Yeah, I was lucky.
When you watch this reigning Golden Gloves champion of San Francisco work out in the ring, you'd never guess that 2 years ago, he walked through the shadow of death.
It took the police officers about 4 or 5 minutes to get there, and as I was hit, I was laying on the ground. When they operated on me for 6, 7, maybe, I think, 14 hours.
Bullets from 2 semi-automatic weapons punched through Binky's left leg, tearing apart a major artery.
I got shot 3 times, one here. The bullet came out of this, the same bullet. I got hit here and hit here. And they put me to sleep. The doc said, before I put this on, I'm going to tell you one thing. You have a 50-50 chance on losing your leg.
The attack that almost cost Binky his life happened here one June afternoon in San Francisco's Army Street projects. Police say he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, a place where drive-by shooters set their sights on this graffiti-scrawled complex.
Just shooting in the crowd, just shooting, you know, so everybody scattered. I scattered too. You know, I grew up around here all my life. Hey, Jamie. Huh?
Binky is the son of well-known San Francisco middleweight Jimmy Lester, and Binky's fight to the top of the San Francisco boxing world has made him a hero here. His sneakers hang from utility wires, a gang-style tribute to his accomplishments.
My first tennis shoes is the black and blue ones that's swinging around in the circle. Under the boardwalk, down by the sea, yeah.
Binky's coach is groundskeeper at the project and a part-time singer for Giants baseball games.
On a blanket with my baby is where I'll be.
He says Binky is the ultimate comeback kid.
Is where I'll be.
There's an individual who is like the mythical phoenix, who is rising from the ashes, the burnt ashes, to metamorphosize and to reinvent himself into a new being, a new person.
These streets are a powerful lure to Binky, who admits he's used crack cocaine.
In my opinion, I thought it was cool because everybody else was doing it. I mean, well, you know, I'm doing it too, you know.
What would you say now?
No, I mean, I wish I could turn back in time, but I definitely want to get up out of these projects. You know, I want to be somebody.
Binky's dream to become an Olympic boxer now hangs in the balance.
If I lose, I would have to sleep in the cold, and nobody in the world do not really want to be with a loser. Everybody like winners.
2 months ago, Binky moved out of the Army Street projects to a better place. 476 residents remain there, still living with the dangers that surround them each and every day. They are people with dreams and ambitions, and for those families, the Army Street projects are simply home.